Minasan, konnichiwa. My name is Yoshi Domoto. I am the Executive Director of the Japan America Society of Georgia, and I'm so thrilled that you are tuning in today for the Society's Have a Coke and Tea with the Society and Meet the JASG, our member spotlight series where we share all of the greatness of the Japan America Society and our members and our network. We are in for a special segment today as we are going to be featuring the Consul General of Japan, Mr. Kazuyuki Takeuchi, and then our chair of the society, Mr. Al Hodge. But as the series name has it, Have a Coke and Tea, just wanted to share that I am enjoying a nice Coca-Cola product, Sprite, nice refreshing summer drink. Consul General, you have, I think, a refreshing water, right? So yes, thank you so much for joining us. And Mr. Hodge, you have a Sprite with me as well too. So, well, let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us. Consul General, we would like to maybe get started with you first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the type of work you do. I know you are the Consul General, but if you can let us know a little bit more about the consulate, all the great activities you do and all the things you do to support the community, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you for Yoshi-san for queuing me on this occasion. And, my name is Kazuyuki Takeuchi, as introduced by Yoshi-san. And I arrived here as a Consul General last September. And I repeatedly introduced myself as that this is the first United States for me. And I've been having excited last 9 months, although half of them has been under COVID-19 situation. I am, as I said, Consul General of Japan in Atlanta, and that means everything for the business of Consulate General Office. I mean, bridging Japan and regions responsible for the office. I mean, in this case, state of Georgia, state of Alabama, state of North Carolina, and state of South Carolina. Bridging Japan and those regions and enhance sharing value and thoughts between the two sides, and eventually make ourselves good and unpartable friends.
Great. Thank you very much, Consul General. I know we appreciate all the support that you offer, not only the Japan American Society, but also all the other organizations here in Georgia and throughout the Southeast. Thank you so much for all the important work you do.
Thank you side as well for all the support JSG, AJS offers to us.
Yes, most definitely. Now, Mr. Hodge, I wanted to ask you, I know a little bit about yourself, but if you can share to the audience about yourself and the type of work you do, not only with the society, but the work that you do also with your consulting company, that would be great.
Well, thank you. And again, special regards to the good Consul General. We appreciate your leadership, sir. And the Japan American Society of Georgia mission, of course, is to work all we can very positively to bridge Japan and Georgia. And that includes business, cultural, educational opportunities. And ultimately, yes, it's about investment and trade and the mutual benefits of all that. Ultimately, it's about relationships and friendships. And I'm so happy that Japan America Society of Georgia has that active work together. As far as I am concerned, I'm a retired Chamber of Commerce professional and have worked in Charleston, South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia, and Rome, Georgia. And upon my retirement after 40 plus years in the profession, I established, along with my wife, Cheryl Reiner Hodge, Hodge Consulting Services. And we provide consulting services, everything from marketing for businesses and communities, economic development, strategic planning, and some public policy work.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, I know we are all in the business of promoting friendship and bridging the U.S. and Japan together through business, cultural exchange, education as well. But kind of going back to your history a little bit. So, Consul General, how did you get first introduced to the U.S. and what was kind of your first connection with America? And tell us a little bit about your history with the U.S.
It's quite complicated as a matter of fact, because like me, all other Japanese people in America has been the closest country for me from my childhood. But at the same time, as I said, that this is first time I visit actually to the United States. Except two or three occasions for a business trip in my diplomatic career. So the last 9 months has been days to fill the gap between what I heard and what I saw. And actually, because for all Japanese people, the United States is closest country, no one particularly introduced your country to me, because as a diplomat especially, it's quite natural to know United States. So everything for me in America is my self-gaining knowledge.
Great, thank you very much. And I hope you're enjoying your time in the U.S. Now as a diplomat, and certainly in Atlanta and Georgia and the Southeast, and you're enjoying all of the great food, the great people, and hopefully we can all kind of get back together in person sometime soon.
Yes, quite.
So Mr. Ao, same question for you, but kind of flip the question a little bit. How did you get first introduced to Japan? I know you have a unique and special kind of story about that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share. When I was in first grade, our principal, Mary F. Dunn, principal of Virginia Lord Hurd Elementary School in Savannah, Georgia, took a summer trip to Japan. And she invited each class to what would now be considered the media center and shared her experience about Japan. And it was really fascinating. She talked about the culture, the business, she talked about the clothing and the food, and she also just had what sounded like a magical time in Japan, and that was my first introduction. She also included, oh, by the way, the fact that she passed the international date line and shared with all of us first graders that we could actually have 2 birthdays. That was extra special for every one of us, hearing that we could have 2 birthdays in the same 24-hour period. Since then, of course, we have really been fascinated by Japan, the people, the culture. And fast forward, my first trip to Japan was in the 1980s with then South Carolina Governor Dick Riley, who went on to become U.S. Secretary of Education in the Clinton administration. And that experience was a wonderful one. Of course, primarily the opportunities for business for the Southeast. And of course, Governor Riley was accompanied in a great partnership with the other states in the Southeast. Therefore, the Southeast region and the strong support for Japan, established, of course, by Governor Jimmy Carter and Governor George Busbee from Georgia, continued at that point to create opportunities. And now we get to share the great legacy and the living legacy that continues with the partnership and the agreements. one other note is that my wife, when she was a little girl, was there with her family. Her father was in the U.S. Air Force. And so she had some very early Japanese experience, and some of our cherished possessions from her parents are the Japanese memorabilia that they brought back.
Wow, so many connections. It's so funny how personal connections lead to kind of professional and kind of business relationships. So thank you both for sharing kind of your history about your connection with both the U.S. and Japan, and hopefully we can continue that and keep kind of building those relationships. And hopefully, Mr. Al, we can send more teachers to Japan so that they can come back and share all the special and unique aspects of Japanese culture to young people, and that will kind of blossom their interest in international relations.
Absolutely. And as long as we're talking about education and governance, I think it's very significant that all the governors, since Governors Carter and Busby, have continued the important tradition and relationships. And I was privileged to accompany several governors over, including Sonny Perdue, who now is the U.S. Secretary for the Department of Agriculture in the President Trump cabinet, and has been involved in trade negotiations, favorable negotiations between Japan and the United States. And of course, Governor Brian Kemp continues to lead and works very closely with the Japanese delegation, and up to and including now the caucus, the Georgia-Japan caucus. So a lot of opportunities, and looking forward to the future.
So speaking of U.S.-Japan connections, so Consul General, a little bit very quickly about myself. I was actually born in Japan, in Kawasaki, in Kanagawa Ken, and moved to the U.S. when I was 8 years old, and kind of been going back and forth ever since. But can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up in Japan and kind of how it was like growing up there?
Actually, I experienced 3 or 4 places for marriage in my childhood, but mainly I was grown up in Tokyo and surrounding metropolitan area. And actually, a main part of my student history was in Kanagawa Ken, in Yokohama City. And since I joined diplomatic service, mainly I was living in Tokyo or overseas. I mean, 4 or 5 countries in aggregate, 15 years or something like that.
Cool. Well, I hope your current stop here in Atlanta is the best yet, and we're definitely looking forward to continue working together with many more programs and projects.
Absolutely.
Yes. And Mr. Al, you mentioned that you grew up in Savannah. Can you tell us a little bit about how it was to grow up in coastal Georgia?
Well, it was a great experience to grow up in Savannah. And of course, along the way, I was early on fascinated with Japan, as I've mentioned, and other international opportunities. And Savannah was a great place to grow up in for that, because the Port Authority, of course, the Georgia Ports Authority is there, and several international companies, both companies based in Georgia that do business in other countries and vice versa, and the shipping companies and all of that. So it was a great place to grow up in, and I've had the privilege in Georgia of living in the Metro Augusta region and in Northwest Georgia in Rome. And so all of that has been good. And I appreciate, Yoshi, your sharing about your growing up experience, and talk about your ideal Japan American Society of Georgia exec. You embody that. So thanks for sharing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, speaking of Savannah, I know Savannah hosted most recently the SUS Japan conference last year in your hometown. And Consul General, I know you made some wonderful remarks there as well. So hopefully we can have another SUS Japan conference sometime very soon. But kind of going back to kind of some of your personal interests, Consul General, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do on your spare time?
Actually, it has been a very difficult question because one of my hobbies is to play golf, but it's quite difficult for this difficult situation. It's quite difficult to play golf in ideal form because joining others and talking to other people has been one of the fun of the golf. But definitely, it's not quite the case recently. But fortunately, I and my wife as well likes to stay inside with displays ahead in front. So it has been a good day for us in the city of Atlanta for last 4 or 5 months as well.
Yes, well, hopefully this time a little bit through the pandemic has allowed all of us to spend a little more time indoors and kind of relax a little bit. I know many of us are busier than ever with things, but on Consul General, hopefully you get to have your own time with your wife and have some quiet time too. And when things are a little bit more safe, then it's time to get back on the golf course. And Georgia has many golf courses, so hopefully you can enjoy some places like East Lake, and maybe you can visit Augusta sometime too. So
hopefully.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Al, some of your hobbies and your interests, and what do you and Cheryl like to do on your spare time?
Well, we like to travel, and of course that has been different lately. Cheryl is an artist, and so we are together on some of the art opportunities. She's a nicely accomplished artist, and in fact some of her early works were Japanese related and continues to paint a variety, but including some Japanese style art, ikebana, for instance, and portraiture of good Japanese folks. We also, I've for a lifetime have enjoyed giving back, and therefore serve on in various capacities on boards of directors and other types of volunteer activities to give back, as I've always been interested in community development, economic development, the political policy, not necessarily politics, but public policy at the local, state, and national levels. And so all of that is of great interest for me. And lately, Cheryl and I have been wonderfully involved with our 2 grandchildren who live in Marietta. And that's an extra special treat for us that in some ways this has afforded a little bit of extra time with our 2 grandchildren. Oh yeah, and their parents.
Challenging times, but I know you enjoy a lot of the things you do with the consulate and your work as a diplomat. But if you can tell us maybe some of the things that you enjoy most about your work, and maybe some of your future goals and aspirations as Consul General, and maybe future initiatives or things the consulate would like to see in the community. If you can share a little bit about that, that'd be great.
You gave me a pretty difficult question because I'm now still in trial and error process, both for my new post and both for a new working condition. For last 35 years of my diplomatic career, I've always thought how to mobilize my boss. And for the first time in last September, I became the person who is mobilized. And I'm enjoying thinking about how I should be mobilized. That is one of the most interesting part of my work now. And of course, what are the most challenging thing for my business, it's quite easy how to get along with new working condition. This is a quite difficult question to answer, and I don't think a clear-cut answer exists as well.
Yes, yes, these are very challenging times, but I think there are also new opportunities too. So, Consul General, we certainly look forward to finding unique ways to bridge Georgia and Japan together in all the ways that we can together. But Mr. Hodge, same question to you. What do you enjoy most about your work, and maybe some of your future aspirations and goals with the consulting firm, as well as the society? And what can society can do better?
Well, it is a fulfilling opportunity, I will say, when the folks with whom we work have adopted the recommendations and, very importantly, implementing them and with success. That is a very fulfilling part of what Cheryl and I do with our business, sometimes independently and sometimes we collaborate with others. And that teamsmanship is very successful. That also is a great segue into what the Japan America Society of Georgia does. And the teamsmanship that is exhibited daily with our various special interest groups, with everything from the topics of economic development and sustainability and good public policy, our young professionals, our Tomodachi Club. There are just so many ways for folks to participate. And what we're looking for is for more like that. Japan, we are honored that Japan is the #1 investor out of all the countries, the #1 investor in the state of Georgia. And so a lot of people, a lot of families depend upon Japanese investment in Georgia. And of course, that is very fulfilling in and of itself. And then we've already talked about one, and that being Coca-Cola, in addition to them, of course, Aflac and Delta and quite a few corporations that are Georgia-based have had opportunities to do business in Japan, and we want to see more of that. We think that the mutual benefits of relationships and business and education and culture all work together. And right now, that's more important than ever to make certain that that goes forward. Therefore, we're also looking for even more relationships and partnerships at the local level with our chambers of commerce and our cities and our counties, small businesses, our large manufacturers, and of course, software and fintech companies, where we think the opportunities are limitless with the mutual benefits of Japan and Georgia, and working together with Japan America Society of Georgia, JETRO, and so many organizations that we think the future is very, very bright.
Great, thank you very much. So speaking of which, yes, Georgia has over 600 Japanese affiliated Japanese companies in our state that have invested close to $11 billion and employ close to 35,000 Georgians. So a lot happening business and economically between Japan and Georgia. But speaking of which, we are currently working with the U.S. Census Bureau to promote the census and try to get every single Georgian counted for the census as we get accurate counts of the population here in our state and throughout the U.S. Means more funding for communities, for schools, hospitals, infrastructure, more representation in the U.S. government, in Congress. So the census is very important, I believe. And through the work with our census, we actually kind of learned some interesting facts too. So Consul General, as you know, there are almost a little less than 10,000 Japanese citizens living here in our state in Georgia. But if you count the people, Japanese Americans, people who have Japanese ancestry. It's actually close to 20,000 too. So I think the number of Japanese people and also Japanese Americans in our state is growing. But Consul General, if you can maybe take a moment to comment about the importance of the census. Certainly, I think the Japanese census is very important, but if you can share kind of a message about the importance of the U.S. Census for the Japanese community here, and a message to encourage every single Japanese and every Japanese American to take part and be counted in the census, that would be great.
Thank you, Yoshi-san. And actually, you explained the importance of census quite well, and I believe that every single Japanese American or people with Japanese ancestry are aware of that importance as well, because importance of the census is quite common, quite universal in all over the world. And in Japan, that applies in Japan as well. The census in Japan be conducted in every 5 years. And as the census in the United States, it offers a basis for future policy matters like infrastructure or welfare, or even allocation of seats for lawmakers. And I believe that because every Japanese American aware of the importance and contributed to the conduct of census, because I have a contract with TV Japan, and repeatedly it broadcasts the importance of the census 2020. And I myself did it 2 months ago or something like that. It's quite amazing that every single non-residential citizen, non-nationality city resident can participate in census activities. But it's quite American, I feel, that being here makes being American. And I hope that interests and needs of Japanese Americans be reflected in future policies through active participation to the census. So I recommend those who hasn't been contributed to the census, please do it right now.
Yes, thank you very much, Consul General. So one just add-on question to that was, thank you so much for taking part in the census and being counted. Was it a difficult process? Did it take you a long time, or can you share your experience about taking the census?
No, actually, it was far easier than I expected. And it's been only 20 minutes or something like that online.
Great, thank you very much. So as you all heard straight from Consul General, be counted. Even if you're not an American citizen, it's very important to be part of the census. And this is a part of connection to the U.S. and you can, be part of America by being counted. So,
well, if I could amplify that for just a moment of the importance, part of the allocation, for instance, for education, transportation, other priorities that impact everyone, it depends upon a complete census count, an accurate census count. Therefore, I applaud the Consul General and you, Yoshi, for the extra efforts to get the complete count out. And I would like, if you could, since education is a central interest of the society, to perhaps amplify that, the partnerships that we enjoy with our schools across the state and the university level, the college and university level partnerships. would you take a moment and describe those, Yoshi?
Sure, yes. So one of the foremost things that the society does is be a big support of education. So that includes K-12 schools here in the U.S. And also colleges and universities, but also schools and students from Japan that come here and visit the U.S., particularly in Georgia as well. So we visit classrooms. In person, also virtually nowadays, to talk about Japan, to share various aspects of Japanese culture, teach Japanese culture, and also education goes beyond higher education after college too, as you know, we visit both Japanese and American companies to teach about Japanese business culture, business etiquette, business customs, proper ways to do business with one another in Japan as well. But it always goes both ways. And we also teach Japanese people living here about the American education system. We actually have a very strong partnership with some of our members who teach ESL and teach English to the Japanese community here. And we host students from Japan all year long with our partnership with Obidin University in Japan, where they visit us for a semester at a time or 2 weeks at a time. And kind of teach students about not only English, but also business and business opportunities as well. And so it always goes both ways. And, you know, as a 501c3 nonprofit, I would say one of the most, rewarding aspects of our work is our educational activities, as we get to see the smiles and kind of the faces of both young people and older students and also professionals who really enjoy, and we help open up a new world as we introduce Japan to them, and then also introduce and help Japanese people here about being acclimated to the U.S., particularly in the Southeast and here in Georgia too.
Well, and the teaching of Japanese language throughout the state, and the other opportunities that JASG does directly for teaching languages and culture. All of that is so very important. And again, I repeat, more important than ever.
Yeah, actually, language education is one of the most important part of the bridging two countries. And showing my experience in Europe, the most important issue to be tackled is that narrowing down numbers of the students who are learning Japanese language.
Well, we will have to change that trend and keep the bar going up. And I think there's interest out there, and hopefully this time of reflection can give people of all ages, maybe a new kind of found interest about language exchange. So, Consul General, thank you very much for joining us. I would like to ask one final question, if I may. So if you have any updates from Japan headquarters in Tokyo or the embassy in Washington, things happening in Japan currently with the pandemic, or any initiatives that the consulate here in Atlanta has, if you can share us any of the things happening, and then also if you have any final messages of hope and kind of help encourage people in the community, we would really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yoshi-san, and to give me a chance to make it. Actually, as you are aware, or you might be aware, Japan is now fighting against could be a second wave of pandemic. And it is just quite difficult for Tokyo Kasumigaseki to make up a new issue for looking at for the future. But still, Japan is quite willing to show throughout the world how we can fight against COVID-19 in Japanese way and make our fight being successful. So new initiatives for Japan-America relationship or Japan-Georgia relationship is still in the process of waiting for the queue, but we are preparing ourselves for being ready to make it as soon as it been made possible. So I strongly hope that JSG, AJS Georgia can cooperate with us to make a full throttle for making a new wave of initiatives.
Thank you very much, Consul General. I think, as you said, these are very challenging times for all of us, but the only way we can survive and get through this is together. So we certainly look forward to partnering together with you as closer than ever as our leader and our chair, Mr. Hodge said. I think it's more important than ever for all of us to collaborate together. So I think both Japan and the U.S. Have a lot that we can share amongst each other, and some of the success stories and things that work well. So we certainly look forward to working with you and your staff. I know there's a lot of new projects and initiatives happening, and we certainly look forward to being part of that. And we're so happy to be your friend and be your partner and collaborator. So.
In fact, we're encouraged that just as the biomedical sector is important in Japan, it is important in the United States. We're encouraged with Takeda and what that Japanese corporation is doing in Georgia. And I am encouraged by some of the recent successes that the Georgia Department of Economic Development and the Georgia Research Alliance and so many of our partners are doing that are showing progress, and I'm confident in the future and look forward to getting the pandemic past us and moving forward.
Yes, well, thank you both. You guys are such great interviewees and guests that we went a little over the allotted time. It's so wonderful to learn more about you, Consul General, and Mr. Hodge, thank you so much for sharing even more about your special affinity to Japan and the great work you do with the society as well. But to learn more about the Consulate General of Japan here in Atlanta, please visit www.atlanta.us.memb-japan.go.jp. Or if you search for Consulate General of Japan in Atlanta, you'll go to their website and kind of learn more about Consulate and all the great things they do here in the community. And to learn more about the Japan American Society of Georgia, please visit our website at www.jasgeorgia.org. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a great occasion for me as well. Thank you, Domo-san. Thank you, Paul-san.
Thank you, Consul General and Yoshi. Appreciate it.